because I do go back and watch them.
Thank you for reminding me. Appreciate it. Okay, lesson 4. So your homework assignment was you were to shoot through flowers with your subject in focus and take a photo with one lens and take a photo with another lens. And I noticed my typo on that one. You were supposed to isolate one aspect of a bloom with one of your lenses and do the second with do it again with one of your other lenses. And then you were supposed to try your hand at some artificial backgrounds, at least 2, and then illustrate your photo, a photo with focus stacking. So here's what you all did. Tons of stuff. You all did some good stuff. Okay, Carol H., I started with you today.
Oh, okay. So this was shooting through flowers, and that's one of my bigger lenses. So I held some yellow mums up to the lens and kind of shot through them.
Very good.
And I don't know what flower this is. I don't know what any of them are.
Oh, this is stock.
Okay.
Stock. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy with this one.
It looks like a yellow haze. I wouldn't have thought that those were actually flowers there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really close. Pretty. And I kept moving them back and forth, trying to see how it was going to look. So I like this one. I don't like the one with the next lens. I wasn't happy. I could not get anything to work with that macro lens. I just couldn't make it work. In the field, I might have had a better chance, but I don't know. Anyway, I tried. Sorry.
Carol H., that's one of the reasons I like the telephoto lenses more instead of the macro lenses.
Right.
Because you can do stuff like that. I just find it works better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't like this one at all, but after beating my head against the wall, I said, good enough is good enough. And
by the way, Carol, I like the second one. So
do you?
Okay. Kind of like, yeah, I think that one is twice the photo. So, it's all kind of subjective.
It's very subjective. Yeah,
exactly. No, I love it.
So again, this is my 40 to 150. That's one of the pro lenses that came with a kit whenever I bought it. This one I don't like as much. This is the reverse. I don't like this one as much as I did the one with the macro. I had a really, really hard time isolating just that little, is that the pistol or whatever that is, coming up in there.
And that's a very small bloom too.
It is.
That is, because that's a Peruvian lily, so it's very small. And by the way, with Carol's lenses, you double it. So you double the number. So that's her 80 to 300, if you want to know your equivalent. Yeah.
And then this one I did, this was the macro lens again. So that would have been 120 millimeter. I don't like the background too much, but because I forgot to put a background back there. So it's white.
Look how clear right here. And you can see the depth of field right here and right here. See how it's a flat plane that just moves right through there. You can see kind of the sparkle in the petals of the flower. It's nice and clear.
Yeah, I really I played around with that a lot, trying to just do the little all the pollen on the stamens and then the little stripes and things, because I really like the coloring, but this was the one I liked the most.
Very good.
All right, so this, Lynette, I was thinking of you whenever I did this. This is the artificial background, and this is the one I had the most fun with, was the artificial background. I was trying to look for props all around my house, right? And I pulled a lot of things in back here into this room. But so I have this stuff in my kitchen, this chicken wire stuff. And I said, I need something old in the background, like a yellowed newspaper. And so I dug through some old photo boxes and found a yellowed piece of newspaper, and it's actually hung upside down because it didn't look right side up. So that's my newspaper in the background. That was my artificial background.
Wow.
Nice. I like it. I like the eggs in the basket.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And
those are-
also very well laid out as a still life. So it's all harmonious all the way through.
Hmm.
yeah. So I thought if I'm doing these, I'm going to do these and put them on my website. I'm not just going to, it needs to be something that I'm going to be proud of. So
Yeah.
I worked kind of hard at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Get some benefit out of it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's really pretty.
Okay. Now you asked me last week how many pictures I took of something before I got one I liked, and I didn't have a number. So this one has like over 700.
No,
Wow.
Okay.
Oh,
this is beautiful.
So that tells you a little bit
I-
about my
yes.
personality, right? So,
700.
Wow.
well, you know,
But
I'm
it's
just-
gorgeous.
But it's
Gorgeous.
pretty.
I moved things around, change camera angle and lighting and all this stuff, and until I got something that I was happy with. I ended up with several that I was kind of happy with. And so if I put textures and stuff on them, I'll be able to use those too, because the sharpness doesn't quite matter as much when you do that. But this background, can I reach it? No, I can't reach it. It's a picture that I took I copied Kathy's example. This is a photo that I had taken. There's a huge field out where my daughter lives, and every year it's filled with different wildflowers. And so one year it was all the sunflowers. And so I was riding in a buggy that one of my grandsons. And so my picture, I had a lot of blur pictures. And so this is one of the blur pictures that's in the background, but this is also sitting on the mirror. So you kind of have the double background. I really,
Right.
personally, I tend to like underexposed pictures. And so that's kind of where this is. I had problems with that petal in the foreground. It's out of focus and it was blown out. So I used a linear gradient and darkened the bottom half of that a little bit. But this one I like. I do have some versions where I just grunged it up a lot that I kind of like too, but this one looks more like a photo.
Yeah, because it has a lot of different uses. You can brighten it up and it's one picture, you can darken it and it's another picture, you can texture it and grunge it. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this.
People tend to like sunflowers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So this is another artificial background. It's the same sunflower. I got a lot of use out of that one sunflower. So right now we are in the midst of, both of my husband's parents have died. And so we have gotten their stuff. And so we are culling, and there are a lot of dishes.
Uh-huh.
And so this is a cake plate in the background. That's, wet. There's enough distance, so I've got some blur there. So that's what that is. It's kind of a high key image.
How
And
How far back was that dish? Like a foot? Or?
Maybe.
And
This
you
was probably my macro lens. Yeah, I don't remember what lens this was, but no,
You
it
have
wasn't
a
my macro.
too. Is
I'm
there a
sorry?
mirror? Is there a mirror there too?
Yes.
Very pretty.
So it's sitting on the mirror and then you've got the cake stand behind it.
Yeah, it's sitting up against the wall on the back side.
And
So
then,
it's reflected in the mirror too.
and then what are you doing with the seam of the mirror? Are you erasing that or how are you getting rid of the seam in the mirror?
So, you know what? Maybe that's just the reflection of the cake plate. Because I probably cropped it out. Yeah, that's
bet
just
you-
the reflection of the
I
cake.
bet you it's the reflection of the cake plate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. There's a lot of green in the center. Did you put that green in there?
No, there were two different kinds of sunflowers. One had the black center and this one had that center. And in the
Yeah.
bouquet that I bought, it had that one.
Beautiful.
So mirrors, lots of fun with
Right.
mirrors.
I'm
Is it-
loving that.
I
mirror.
Is
love
it
that.
just a regular mirror?
Yeah, it
Just
just
a
came off.
regular mirror?
It came off of a bathroom wall. My neighbors were remodeling their bathroom and we got it out of their trash pile.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Carol, I have squares of mirrors that I bought at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. And, you know, people use them on centerpieces on tables. And so I have a bunch of squares, and then I have several rounds as well. And they just work well because they don't take up a lot of space. And if I ever had a dinner party, I guess I could use them. Very useful for photography, though. Very
So
useful.
how did you get the pedals on the right? Are they, now I'm looking at that going, are they suspended somehow or are they?
No, they're on the mirror. So my angle is I'm kind of up above the flower a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And so they're just lying on the mirror.
Huh.
And every time I moved, the flower more fell off.
Yeah.
But I did arrange them a little bit. I was trying to, yeah, I did arrange them.
And are you using your ring light and your softbox, or is this?
Oh
just-
yeah, that's in my
yeah.
softbox.
Yeah, inside the softbox. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know, I've got a couple, probably my Lume Cube and the ring light. I liked the ring light because it's got color. It's
Uh-huh.
got temperature settings on it. But
Yeah. Good job. Good job.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Then
this
this
is-
is your focus stack.
I focus stacking. So yeah, I went outside and found hen bit in the yard and tried to lay down and do some of that, but I didn't get anything I really liked. So I went back to the florist and bought some more things. And this one's okay. I feel like the yellow's a little blown out, but I liked all the weird stuff about this, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the background is actually a piece of cork board. I was still playing with backgrounds.
And then on your focus stacks, for each one of you, I blew them up just so, you know, we could look at it in detail. And obviously when I blow it up, you know, it's going to pixelate a little bit, but there's no missed spots in here. So you ended up doing a really, really nice job.
Well, I went back in and changed the settings because I saw some gaps. And so then I made the distance narrower. Since it's a
Mhm.
very small bloom, it didn't need to be very far between the shots. So you know what? I've learned so much about my camera about this. And
Good.
it's really taken me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. Good.
Um,
That's what it's
yeah.
supposed to do.
I
Yeah.
know, which I was like, I'm not taking pictures of flowers. But you know, I had to get over that.
Yeah, it's January.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful, really good, really good. Okay, Suzanne.
Yeah, so what I learned.
And
from
one
this-
second. Oh, there was one thought that came to my mind on Carol's picture, picture right here. I was one time talking to somebody about doing a setup in the studio, and I used the area behind me when I set it up. It was a mess this weekend, but I went and calculated all the pieces of equipment that I had, and there was nearly $1,000 just to take that photograph, between light stands and old tripods and, you know, but you accumulate this stuff over time. So it's not like you go out and buy it all at once. But you know, it's just amazing how much stuff you accumulate just to try to do some of this stuff sometimes.
You're
Yeah,
not even talking about the camera and the lenses.
No.
Yeah. And so the mirror was a new addition this time.
Exactly. To photograph the stop action hummingbirds, for instance, is nearly $1,000. So, you know, but you accumulate it bit and pieces at a time. So it's not like you go out and buy it all at one time. Okay, Suzanne.
Yeah, so what I've learned from this experience is, and I already knew this anyway, I'm not very creative, like where I have to create what it is I'm taking. I feel more comfortable if I'm out and I just see something or I see it slightly different and take photos that way. So this was really, but what it did teach me, I think similar to Carol, it taught me things about my camera and different ways I could use my camera. So that's been good. But anyway, this is through the flowers zooming in on that. And that's a pile of wood that we've got out the back that my husband was going to make fires with, but it's probably like been sat there 7 years. But yeah, that's.
And now you see that you could take some of those same flowers, move them closer to the camera and shoot through that. So you've got
Yeah.
the same color palette.
Yeah. Yeah, I did play with some other colors, but I like this one.
Yeah.
And then you told me I could take one of my cat with so of course she's always out there hovering this one. So this is just in through some, I don't know what the flowers are, but like lily type buds that are all getting ready to bloom. So that's Tabitha.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, she's a real
Yeah.
poser.
She's hiding in the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very pretty.
So I think this was the isolated, and I guess I was trying to understand I even went back and watched the video to try and understand it, but I like this one because there was a bunch on the stem, so I was able to pull this one flower out, and unlike some others, I was able to keep the edges sharper.
Oh.
And Kathy, you had talked about when you take pictures of birds, you don't have your f-stop. You keep it around like, I think you said like 11 or something like that. So I took a couple of this and the edges were very blurry, and then I played around with just upping the F, and I like this one. So that's actually a rose bush behind. These flowers were just on a stem. So I just stuck the stem in the ground and pulled this one around a rose bush. And
Uh-huh. And it
Pretty.
is edge to edge sharp, which is good. That flat to the film plane to keep it all in focus.
yeah,
What was your f-stop? You
I think it was
remember?
like 13, around about that. So it wasn't, super high, but normally my instinct is to go down to like 5.4 or
Mhm.
something to get it more blurry background.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I could hear Kathy in my head talking about trying to keep all of the birds sharp by, just upping that a little bit. So, yeah. And then this is just with because this one we were asked to do with 2 different lenses. So,
And here's your other lens.
yeah.
And still able to get edge to edge sharpness on these blooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was happy with that
Yeah.
flower. So artificial, again, not creative like Carol with all those different things. So I just went outside to look for things. And this is just slated rocks that we have, and just put some flowers on there and took that as my artificial background.
Mhm. But it works. It's got the
Yeah.
color harmony between the flowers and the blue of the slate.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
yeah. Well, it came up nice. And this is back in that wood stack. So using that as an artificial, and I played around with trying to get the wood stack a little more blurry, but I thought I like this where it's a little bit, it shows a little bit more texture of the wood around.
Mhm.
But again, the yellows are it's very vibrant.
Mhm. Very pretty.
And then stole this from Carol, taking the picture of the back of the flower. I was like, I really liked how that was. So this one was with the stacking, and I had a little bit of a challenge with that. And in retrospect, I probably might have moved the camera a little bit further away, because when I was trying to do the focus on either side of the flowers, the flower was beyond where the focus would move to. So I was able to kind of get left and right pretty focused, and then even the front of the green piece in the middle pretty focused, but I couldn't get the back or the forward
Uh-huh.
and of course I just bought the software yesterday, so I was playing with that as well. But yeah, so it wasn't as focused all the way around as I would have liked.
You did well. And then remember that when you're focused stacking, just learn from my mistakes over the years, start in the front and move all the way back, because many times I would kind of start right in here and then move back, and then this stuff would be out of focus. So make sure you start in the front, the closest area to you, and move back. That's your starting point. And then I blew it up, and then you can see that you don't have any gaps in the stack. Yeah, so there's no fuzzy areas or anything like that in the stack. Yeah. And then I like this one, Suzanne.
Yeah, so this one I just cut the stem off afterwards, and this wasn't stacking. It was just, I really liked it. It was on a piece of slate that my daughter has here. My daughter-in-law left here, so I just got it out and put the flower on that. And I just liked how the colors all came out on that one.
And by the way, when I was at the grocery store this week, I went over to the Gerber daisies and checked out the back of all the Gerber daisies.
Yeah, and what was funny is this one's actually red on the other side. So it was like totally different color underneath, which was really interesting. Because I hadn't until Carol had shown those pictures last week, I'd never really paid much attention to the back of flowers. So thank you, Carol.
Yeah.
That was good.
The back of sunflowers are beautiful. They're very hairy, so they're real pretty. You did a good job, and you played, which was good. Just good. Carol C.
Yeah. Oh, this is the focus on a flower through flowers. And so that was the attempt at this, but as I told you, this still wasn't even the last photo that I meant to send, but I sent it by accident anyway.
Okay.
And did that one have a label?
No,
Yeah, I don't remember what that was.
it looks like maybe you're
Oh,
isolating.
maybe the different lens.
Maybe the
Maybe the
different lenses.
lens.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then that was just the focus.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Oh, pretty.
Pretty background. And what was your background here, Carol? Just the
You know-
grass? Is it the grass or something? like
Yes,
that?
it
Yeah.
is grass.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
The grass outside.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like it. And you squirted the tulips
Yes, with a mister.
with a mister? Good.
Oh,
Good.
yes.
They hold water well. Very pretty.
Mhm.
And here's your isolation, I bet.
Yes. Yes.
And what two lenses did you use? Do you remember?
The 24 to 105
Mhm.
and then the 100 to 500.
500. Okay, very good.
Yes.
Very good. So it looks like you're focused right in there.
Yes. And that's the artificial background as well. That is the back of the reflector.
Ah. Just the back of the reflector,
Just-
the
yeah,
black.
The
Yeah,
black, the
yeah,
black side of it. Yes.
yeah. Very pretty.
Again, the background,
It's the diffuser of your reflector.
yes, probably.
Yes, the center
Yes.
diffuser. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. You know, going back to this one, I really like the way you laid this one out. I like the flow of it. You know, everything's kind of going diagonally across the image, which makes it very pleasing to the eye.
Right. And the light coming from the back, I
Uh-huh.
guess, through
Yeah.
the window.
Yeah, yeah, very pretty. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Your white background. And then you can see the blue at the base of the tulip too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And this was the 24 to 105, I suspect.
Yeah, I should have labeled them for you and I thought I did, so.
Well, you
now I
might
don't
have.
remember.
You might have.
Okay.
When I pulled them off, you might
That
have.
doesn't come with it. Okay, yeah, I just can't remember.
Yeah. Good job. Very good job. I like your tulips.
Yeah, good photos.
Mhm.
Tulips are pretty right now.
Yeah, the tulips are beautiful right now. Lynette.
Well, this is an old picture, Kathy. Like I said, Harvey had planted wildflowers a couple of years ago, months before I met you for the first time. And I thought there was the see-through to the garden because you can, the background is blurred,
Mhm.
and it was focused and the sunflower. So anyway, that was my photo before I even got to photography.
Yeah. And I
And
told
I
Lyn-
love it.
I told Lynette that if Harvey ever plants a wildflower garden again, we get invited.
Right.
Oh, of course. I just told him yesterday, I said, I want more wildflowers. But of
Do
course,
it
you have to
again, Harvey.
plant it- You have to plant it in October.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And this is
I
your,
wasn't happy with my see-through flowers at all. I went to the nursery and got several sizes of flowers, which I have them all over the house now.
yeah.
But I think this was my, short lens. And it's supposed to be focused on the camellia.
Right. But you would have had to get closer to that camellia to shoot
Yes,
the other
yes,
flowers.
and I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And
then
this
here
was
to-
inside the house with the cyclamen and the
Mhm.
long lens. And I like it a little bit better. It's focused on the middle flower.
Mhm. And then you see how now you could have taken this cyclamen right here and brought it real close to the lens and used that as your blurry
Yeah.
blurry edges to your photograph.
And this is my isolated flower, the camellia bud in the middle.
Our camellias are starting to bloom.
Oh, a lot of the flowers are zapped with the freezing
Yeah.
29 degrees a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, don't feel sorry for us, Marie, okay? It was 29 degrees, okay? Don't feel sorry for us, okay?
I won't.
Pretty.
And this one is the shorter lens that's isolated. This was a focus stacking. Kathy, I had so much trouble moving the stacks of photos to Photoshop. The Lightroom that I have won't send it to Photoshop as a stack.
And
I
if-
looked, I got Jonathan to help me. We couldn't find it. So I ended up, he said, Mommy, you can move them one by one into Photoshop. And that's what I had to do. And from there, it was okay.
Mhm.
I could go to edit and layer them and blend them that way, and Photoshop would do what it needs to do. But boy, did I have a lot of trouble. I said, oh my gosh, you're so dumb. Why can't you find it?
So
Like,
out of your Lightroom, when you selected all of your photos, did you do edit in Photoshop layers?
yes. See, I couldn't find the edit in
Yeah.
Photoshop layers because it says right click and you will find it there. Right click
Yeah.
to Timbuktu, and I could not find that on my Lightroom.
So up above, you can also do photo edit in Photoshop layers, but
No.
if your Lightroom is not the exact same version as your Photoshop, or your Adobe Camera Raw Bridge isn't the exact same version as your Photoshop, then that edit in Photoshop layers
Mhm.
is grayed out.
Well, it must be because I couldn't find it for the life of me. And as always,
Yeah.
I'm the most technologically challenged person anyway.
Yeah.
And but I was able to move them one by one into Photoshop, and that's what I
You
had
got
to
'em.
do.
Good,
Yes.
good.
This was the first stack I was trying to do.
Yeah.
with the camera. I was able to set my camera. Lo and behold.
Yeah. And this was your first stack, right?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 You know, are the photos showing up blurred on your screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. There you go. And I'm going to come back in. Let me close this out for just a second because save. All the photos just seem to me to be pixelated and I don't know why. And I only enlarged a couple of them. So give me just a second while it saves and then I'll bring it back in. And we'll see if that fixes the problem. Because you all did good work.
I'm glad you saw that, Kathy, because I thought the pictures I sent you were more in focus than what you showed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the same thing. It's like, well, I thought these were better than what I'm seeing right here. Whoa.
Well,
okay,
I
now-
thought it's just my Wi-Fi because I do have a
Yeah.
spotty Wi-Fi living out in the country.
We'll see. You all can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Still coming through.
Yep.
Sorry,
Okay.
still coming through. Yeah. Hope that changes as we go along. We'll see. Okay, and here's your artificial background.
Yes, it is. I found, like everybody else, I was looking everywhere because I've used my fleas before. I was trying to look at something else and I found a clear, it's like a cellophane wrapping paper and with dots, and I put it over a blue board. And that's what I came up with.
Very good. It's got good color harmony to it.
And this one is a vinyl tablecloth, which doesn't really show except for the bottom. It kind of faded up towards the back. And it's kind of a yellow gold with little shiny parts of it.
Mhm. In your little jewelry box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are little bitty flowers. So I had to
Yeah.
I felt like I had to put it on something to kind of show them. It's my lady slipper
Mm-hmm.
orchid.
Mm-hmm. Very pretty.
This was my other photo stacking, and why somehow during the process somewhere it says that I did not choose some pixels on the outside, and I didn't know what that meant. So
I think it did pretty well. And dang, that's ugly. Sorry.
it's clearer than that.
Yeah, it is
I
clearer
thought it
than
was.
that.
I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty clear.
I
On
thought
my
it was
end.
too. I thought it was too. Okay. Can you all give me like 3 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. You can talk among yourselves or coffee break or whatever you would like to do. Just, and I am going to try to do something. I don't know if I can fix this, but I'm going to try to do something. Oh, I don't know how to fix it real quick.
We're just gonna have to give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
You were just gonna
That's
have to,
right.
yeah, we're
Right.
just gonna have to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I am so sorry.
What's funny is Carol H's pictures were in focus.
Exactly.
But not the
Exactly.
rest of us.
Oh, wow.
And everybody else,
Oh, wow.
I just, well, this is clear.
Not,
Marie's picture's clear,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
not real.
no, but this is the beginning of her focus stack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I should have.
yeah.
Oh, all right. Well,
No, go ahead. So this is your one focus stack.
right. I actually started with from left to right, but then when I was doing them so often, but I realized at the end, no matter what, I should have been doing the beginning, that third one
So,
first.
so here's the one, here's two, here's three.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. So your focus point is moving to the various flowers. Yeah. You all saw that, didn't you? This one came through clear for some reason. And then here's your focus stack.
Yeah. It's not really clear on my side, but
It looks better on my side than the other ones were. Yeah. And then I think, oh no, here's your focus stack all the way. That's your
Yeah.
final focus stack. So you
Right.
did 4 of these. So 1,
Right.
2, 3, 4. Yeah. And then you
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. And here's your final focus stack.
Right.
So all 4 of these are now in focus,
right.
which
I
wouldn't have
had
been
trouble
able-
with
yeah.
the edges, as you see, on the top corner and the lower corner. Yeah, I didn't know why.
And that happens sometimes and you have to crop that out.
Yes, I was thinking I
Yes.
could easily crop it out, but I left it there. So you could tell me if I did something wrong.
Yeah. And notice you were hand holding this, weren't you, Marie?
Yes.
Yeah. Now notice how the camera moves. See how the camera
Yeah.
is moving? And
Yeah.
so since
yeah.
the camera is moving, the software has trouble aligning it. And then that means
Gotcha.
all the backgrounds don't line up. You
So,
could take
put
a clone brush and fix that.
Okay. I also, if I had a tripod, I would have just moved the point and
Mhm,
kept the same. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, it was fun to do it. I was trying to figure out why we were doing it, but then I went back and looked at your video again and I saw that piece of jewelry you had that went all the way down.
Uh-huh.
And I said, oh, that's why. It
Yeah.
looks so much clearer and better. And yeah.
Yes, yes. And then here I blew it up for you. And you can see that even going over toward the edges, the software did a remarkable job considering those are
Right.
so tiny. Software did a good job. Yeah,
Yeah, I did see that. I like that too.
good job. And then here's your isolation.
Yes, yeah. And it's that bunch of, on the left-hand side, the yellow,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I isolated.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's nice and clear, really nice and sharp.
That flower was very close to me, and
Mhm.
so I had to back up quite a bit to get this one.
But look how sharp
do the
that
back.
is, right in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I just added this one in because I like the way that the yellow looked,
Uh-huh.
was so clear.
Mm-hmm. I love it because
Yeah.
this is so clear and then we can kind of hop over here with our eye, but we get that nice diagonal going across there. I think it's got a good composition to it.
Right, so that was my isolation.
Yeah.
So what I did here was, this was to shoot through, and because I couldn't get close to this flower, unfortunately, it was at the Oyster Bay planting field, so it was like fenced off.
Mhm.
So I picked a flower that was sort of far, but there is one there in focus. I wish I could circle it for you, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like on the left-hand side, but
Yeah.
this was not as obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really pretty.
Oh, I'm
Beautiful.
sorry. It's on the right-hand side. It's
Yeah.
the top right,
Right here.
even up one. It should
Right
be.
there?
It's either that one or this one. Yeah, it's hard for me to see, but
Yeah.
wait a minute. Maybe if I zoom. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Beautiful camellia. Very pretty.
That place is beautiful.
Yeah.
And so then I did it with the 100, 400.
Mhm. And it just blows out the background really pretty, shows the background really nice. Now going back to this flower right here, I mean, this picture right here, and I know that you can't get close to this, but camellias drop a lot of blooms on the ground.
Yes.
So even if you could have gotten a bloom off the ground and held it in front of the lens so that it was blur, you could shoot through it that way.
You know, I went in, I forget, I think it was September one year, and oh my God, the red roses, everything was on the floor, and it just made the photos look, there weren't that many photos. They had said they were blooming, but there weren't a lot of flowers
Mhm.
in this, yeah,
Yeah, but it's
compared to
pretty.
what usually. Thank you. And this,
There. Oops, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's it, right? Oh, what I wanted to tell you is I didn't do the background, but I did it in the first class.
Mhm.
I wasn't there for class number 2 when you were talking about it, and you had mentioned that maybe I had put black felt in the background
Uh-huh.
of a flower, yellow flower. I actually didn't, and I had black felt, but I
Uh-huh.
went and I put my portfolio bag up, and that yellow flower was up against that.
Yeah.
And I love the dramatic look of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you all inspired me. And as I told you all, I got a bouquet of flowers from a dinner guest. So I had to photograph them. And so this is one of the white lilies. And I did it more high key than I usually do. And then, you know, we've got that masking tool now in Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom. And so I masked out the background. And by the way, if you don't know how to do this really well in the textures class, it's a good way to learn layers is in the master class for textures. But I then changed the color of the background based on this color right here. So I just went through the whole color spectrum chart and just, or slider, and just moved it all the way up and down until I found a color that sort of matched the flower. So that was my playing with isolating. And then I took inspiration from Carol because I had those Gerber daisies. So, you know, might as well do something with them. And, you know, it's always fun to try to recreate because it just kind of drives you further and further into the rabbit hole. And then I noticed that the bloom was damaged right over here. So never start with a damaged bloom because then you're just going to have to keep trying to fix something over and over and over again. A friend of mine who wrote a wildflower photography book talked about that is don't get down on your hands and knees for a damaged bloom. Start with a good one before you get down on your belly. And so that I should have learned from that one, but that was my inspiration by Carol's. Yeah. And this one, this is in the Lightbox tint on a mirror. But I wanted to show you, this is what it looked like out of the camera.
Oh,
Because the white balance of the lights I was using and the white balance of the tint and everything else made the white background this color. And so you can change that. So what I did, noticing that and knowing that I was going to be teaching you all today, I changed my white balance on my mirrorless camera until the background got as white as I wanted it to be. So on the mirrorless cameras, we can actually see what our white balance looks like. So I went into Kelvin K and I just started changing it until I got my background to be white. But that's what it looked like on auto white balance out of the camera.
so is it just changing it for the display purposes, or because it doesn't record, does it record that in a raw file?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you looked at my raw file for this photo, it would show you that my white balance was K3300. Yours does that, right?
Well, Hey, I told you I'm learning a whole lot. My assumption was that if we're shooting in RAW, the white balance doesn't matter, but that it only mattered if you were saving as JPEG. So I'm
No,
gonna have to go back and look. Yeah.
because that's your starting point.
Mhm.
So your white balance, it brings it into my software, Adobe Camera Raw as shot. But if you look at as shot, it's K3300. Yeah, so
Okay.
it just brings it in as shot, but then we can change it because then there was a lot more changing going on in this one. Yeah. But just in case, you know, you set up the tent and you set up the mirror and that type of stuff, and you keep getting weird backgrounds, just understand that that is auto white balance, but you can always change that. That's the beauty of shooting RAW, is that we can always go in and change our white balance, but that's what it looked like out of the camera. So lesson 4 for everybody. Thank you all. That was fun. That was,
Yeah.
I love it when I get to see your work and we get to talk about it. It's always so entertaining. I forgot to mention in lesson 3, depth of field preview button. It's right here. And so same thing, Suzanne, on your 7D, it's right here. And then Carol H, I suspect it's in the same spot on your camera, right?
Probably
Yeah, it's at the base
a
of the
little bit
lens.
farther up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always at the base of the lens. So that's where it is. When you're looking through the viewfinder or you're looking on your back display and you press the depth of field preview button, you now get to see your actual depth of field. So if you want to know whether you need a depth of field of 22 or you need a depth of field of 4 or you need a depth of field as 8, push that depth of field preview button and now you can actually see. So it's a handy little gadget and a lot of people don't use it, but when you're doing this type of work, it is very handy.
Does the
Really.
RP have that button?
The RP may not have that button, but it's right here on your Rs. Yeah. So it's a real handy little gadget. So Carol C, you might go look in the manual and just see if it's got a depth of field preview. Or it might be easier just to Google it to see. So water drops. I mentioned briefly last time that each flower, leaf, thing in nature gathers water in a certain way. And if you know that, then you know how the water on that particular thing is supposed to gather in balls. So this is a goat's head that when it gets wet, it gathers balls of water in this really neat way. And so when you mist it, this is how it's going to get it gathers its water. And you notice if you look through there, you can see the bloom behind it through that water drop. So by putting a Gerber daisy behind this, then I can get that in the water drop if I get everything just perfect. Here's the same thing, just converted into a black and white. So just so you understand, like we saw in the tulips that Carol C misted, they gather water in a certain way. So every one of your flowers sheds water, gathers water in a certain way. Here's a lupine, and I did not do this. This is real. so here's how a lupine, just your basic old ordinary bluebonnet or any other lupine, it gathers water in this big pool right in the center, and the drops of water will roll down the leaf to pool right in the center. But every one of anything in nature gathers water in a certain way. There's a scientific name for it. But if we know that, like a sweet gum leaf, if we know that and we're trying to take a photograph of water dripping off or water accumulating, then it helps for us to know how each one of the blooms or leaves accumulates water. So it's just one of those things that you kind of learn as time goes on or practice with. So if you don't believe me on it, that bloom that's still sitting around your house, start squirting it with a squirt bottle and watch how it drains off. It drains off exactly the same way every single time. And if you want to make those water drops more substantial, you can use glycerin. And you use glycerin mixed with water. I don't think there's any sort of scientific formula how much to how much, but the glycerin mixed with water will give you more shapely water drops. So in the event that you're trying to photograph that flower behind the flower through the water drop, which is a really hard thing to do, and you can really knock your head against a wall for hours trying to do that one, then understand that glycerin will help that water hold a little bit better. If you really want to get going with this, clear Karo syrup will hold your water drop very well also, but it does get very sticky. And so you don't want to get that spilled on your fingers or anything like that. But clear Karo syrup gives you a real nice water drop as well. And it doesn't roll. So once you drop it with an eyedropper, and so start looking for those little teeny weeny eyedroppers that might come in cosmetics or makeup. These are nice when you want to drop that bead of Karo syrup exactly where you want it. So motion blurs. Did anybody take my motion blur class? Any of you all? I've had you all in so many.
Oh, I did. I did.
Yeah, the motion blurs. So motion blurs are a lot of fun. Intentional camera movement. A lot of people are calling this now. I'm old fashioned. I call it motion blurs. We did these in the film days. They were called motion blurs, but now they're called intentional camera movement, ICM photography. Everything that's old is new again, right? But motion blurs are fun. This is where you're simply zooming your lens or moving your camera. So Carol H. talked about being on the buggy going through the wildflower field, and a lot of her photos were blurred. Well, it's worth keeping some of those. But this is focusing on the statue's nose, cameras on the tripod, and then during the exposure, zooming out so that getting the movement of the leaves zooming out. Focus on the nose or the eyes of the statue, because wherever your focus point is, that's where your zoom out begins. So you want it to zoom out from a logical point, not the chin or something like that. And then this is just moving the camera up and down. So the canes were blowing in the breeze. They had a beautiful color to them. The sky had a beautiful color. And so this is just me taking pictures over and over and over again, just moving the camera up and down, and just a little slower shutter speed to get that movement of the canes. So motion blurs. Here's a motion blur again. And you can kind of see by the bend in the photo where I'm pivoting. So I'm pivoting kind of, a little bit further down on the camera versus just moving literally the camera up and down. You can see that I'm pivoting the lens. That's this circle right here, or that bend right there in that intentional camera movement. And here's a layer of the vegetation layered with the top, the same vegetation that's been blurred. So just doing a blending layer on these. And then here's the same thing done with some trees in Ireland. So this is just a movement of the camera up and down and blended with a still image of the foreground of the trees. So this is the still image, and then this is the blurred image up here, and slightly blending them going into it. So intentional camera movement or camera blurs are a nice way to photograph your flowers as well, and kind of fun, just depending on what your subject is. So just a slow shutter speed and moving your camera. Another one, same grove of trees, overcast day, not a lot of clouds. Not a lot of harsh shadows or bright sunlight. There's another one. And a little bit more leaving in some of there's some little ferns down here. So leaving in some things that are a bit solid along with some things that are a bit blurry. So
Are those the real colors, or were they enhanced?
Yeah, real colors. I might have saturated it a little bit more. It was a nice overcast, rich colored day. So
Right.
that kind of soft clouds that really make the colors pop. So it worked well.
Pretty.
And this is just moving the camera back and forth on some really colorful bamboo. So just the bamboo just had these real nice shades to it. You can do the same thing with a spiral. So you can move your camera in circles, don't have to move it straight up and down. And then here's a blend of a spiral with the exact same photograph done still. So one photograph done still blended with another photograph of the same thing done as a spiral. So keeping some of the red poppies firm and then blurring the rest in the back.
So how do you spiral and how do you blur?
So blur would be like moving the camera up and down or moving the
Okay.
camera this way.
Okay.
Or in some of those early pictures, I was moving the camera kind of on an axis, and that gives you the kind of a
Up and down, right?
kind of gives you this little bowing right here. See that
Mhm.
little bow in there? So that's just moving the camera, not, kind of on a twist. This is just moving the camera horizontal. Just moving the camera as a spiral.
Just like this.
Yeah.
While you're taking the picture.
Mhm. Yeah,
Neat.
and you just intentionally give yourself a slow shutter speed so that you can blur it. And then
Okay,
here
and then you combine that blurred picture with the red poppies
with the original pic with the same image, not blurred.
and it's called blending
Uh-huh.
and you
And
do
we-
it in Photoshop.
We put these as layers. So this is 2 layers. So one layer is the spiral photograph and one layer is the regular photograph. And then I just took my blending brush and painted out, this is where you're painting with black or painting with white in your 2 layers. And then just blending through there and cleaning up what I don't want to be spiraled. You can kind of see some spiral going on right in here. So it's
I
just-
like it. I like it when it's all spiraled. The picture before this, I just love the blur.
when it's all spiral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And this is once again, learning how to use those layers because you see now how many times we can use layers and what we can use them for. And layers at this point are only in Photoshop. So we have to take our pictures from Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw and move them into Photoshop. But we're getting to where we can do more and more of this in our Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw. But for right now, we have to do this just in layers. And this is a double exposure in the camera, and all of your cameras will do double exposures in camera. So just make sure you unset your camera. Have you tried this, Carol H?
Haven't tried it. I was reading up on it last night though.
Yeah, yeah. So we all can do this now in our cameras. And this is just one picture blurred. So just zoom the lens and blur it or refocus the lens. One picture blurred, second picture crisp. Doesn't matter if you move the camera, obviously. And then the camera gives you, a double exposure. I can take, I think, 10 exposures now in my R5. Can't imagine why I would want to do that, but I can take 10 exposures now and it just blends them all right in the camera. So remember to unset it though, because the next time you take a picture, it's going to start layering it. Yeah, Marie.
I was just going to say, the settings for the camera, is this where it's called multiple exposure?
Might be multiple exposure. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because you've got exposure bracketing and some other things, but it's a double exposure.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's fun. I don't do it much, but when I do it, I enjoy it. And
Yeah.
and when it comes out really nice. We could do this later on in Lightroom or Photoshop as layers, but I kind of
One
like
of the
it in
guys,
here.
one of the men in one of my clubs, he did this. He waited for the city to look like it was gold. It was during sunset. And we were in Jersey City looking at the bottom of Manhattan, and he shook it.
Uh-huh.
He shook this. And I just couldn't believe what, I mean, we all took beautiful pictures, but his was like breathtaking.
Yeah. Agree. Some of these can be really, really amazing. Yeah. And then some processing ideas for you. These are just some things for you to kind of think about. So in your Photoshop, you have got Gaussian blur. And this is just, you just take your photo over into Photoshop, you go to filter, blur, and then you've got a whole bunch of different blurs over there. And this is Gaussian blur. So it's kind of the first one that I would suggest that you play with. And then this is just kind of, you can determine how blurry you want it, where you want your starting point for the blur to be, how much clarity you want in the beginning or in the middle, wherever your focus point is, how much blur you get going toward the edges. Carol H., you've used Gaussian blur?
I haven't used it much.
Yeah, it's a nice little starting tool to use. So you just take your photo, you don't have to do layers or anything, just take your photo into Photoshop and then go go filters, blur, and then you've got Gaussian blur underneath there. Just start playing with that one. And here's the Gaussian blur going along the edge. So just in the event you don't have your blurred out background the way you want it to, or you want it to be in a slightly different place, then you can do the same thing with Gaussian blur. And then they also have lens blur in there. They have motion blur. They have about 10 different kinds of blurs that you can play with. This is called an Orton. And you take one photograph and you completely blur it with Gaussian blur. And then you layer it over your clear photo, your real photograph. So one photograph is blurred, that's on one layer. Your real photograph is laid over your blurred one, and now we blend them between each other. So you get them to where we create this kind of dreamy, backgroundy looking effect. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Thomas Kincaid painting. So it's just one photograph's blurred, and then you lay over the clear photograph, and then we get that kind of blurry, hazy stuff in the background. So it's called an Orton. Simple, easy to do. And this is, again, a nice way to learn how to do layers and play with layers. And then I think I'm still playing around with, I'm still playing around with blurs. And then textures. Several of you have mentioned textures. How many of y'all have been through textures class? My textures class? Yeah, Marie,
I
you went
have.
through that? And Lynette, you went through that? Okay. So textures class is where we're overlaying textures on top of a photograph to make it, in this case, you can see we've got kind of a canvasy appearance. And then I've left this one so that it's a little blurry out here so that the canvas is just in the middle, just so you can see that just a little bit. But just allows us with textures to throw different things on top of photographs. So just a standard photograph of a canna lily out in Costa Rica, and then overlaying textures on top of it. A good way to learn layers, nice way to play with an image. You mentioned Carol H., you mentioned, that this might be something you grunge up, or one of your photos might be something that you throw textures over.
Sometimes it's just amazing what happens when you do that.
It is. And, this is the same flower, just different processing on different days. So I like it because it leads my brain in a different direction. And Suzanne, you were talking about not being real creative, but the fun thing with textures is once you overlay 3 or 4 textures on something and start playing with the blending modes, it just leads you off into a different direction sometimes. So it helps me be creative. And then there's a thing called color replacement. And once again, one of your features in Photoshop, but I noticed that we now have this in Adobe Camera Raw, and we also have it in Lightroom now under the Develop module. So it used to be we had to do this only in Photoshop, but this latest 2022 version in Lightroom and in Adobe Camera Raw gave us color replacement. So here's my bluebird. I touched his blue feathers and replaced his blue feathers with magenta.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay. So it just goes in and it finds any of that color that you touched and changes it around. So we wouldn't use it here, but here's those Rose of Sharon's. And I touched the pink interior and moved them to blue.
Huh.
Wow.
So color replacement.
Huh.
You know, not something you're going to use every single day, but it's there. It's a tool just in case you need it. And then these are swirls. So swirls, I gave them to you on your handout. I gave you, or twirls, I gave you a instructions on how to do a twirl. Has anybody done these before?
Mm-mm.
No? Oh, well, just prepare to go down the rabbit hole, guys. So you start with just one photo, and then you start following all of these instructions, and no telling where you're going to end up. But you know, this is just the basics of playing around with it. And so here's the same photo. Here's it done in a slightly different way. So these at the bottom of class 4. So, you know, it just depends on what you want to do with them and how far you want to go with them and how much time you have. But a lot of fun to play with. And once again, yeah, I like this one.
Did you do this one?
Yeah, they're
How'd
all
you do this one?
it's the same instructions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
or roughly the same instructions. Now, same thing, you could do this again, and I could try to demonstrate it, and I'd never recreate this
Right.
because no telling what the settings were exactly. It's a little like textures. Sometimes you just can't recreate what you did because
Well, the joke with my cousin Nina is that if we can't find the Northern Lights when we go to Norway, we're going to put them in.
you will find the Northern Lights because you're going with me. Yes, we will find
That's
the
right.
Northern Lights. As long as it's not overcast for 10 days, we will find the Northern Lights. Yes, yes. And so classes, any questions on twirling before I leave that?
No.
No, it is fun. It is beautiful. Yeah. And this, by the way, is just a photo of a bluebell. That was it. It's just a photo of a bluebell. I think I showed it to you in class 1. Yeah. So all kinds of stuff coming up. I'll put more classes on for March, April, and May. But the master class like this one for night photography, and then I'll do one for macro photography. I think there's one coming up for textures photography as well. But the motion blurs, all kinds of other stuff. So you all have taken a lot of classes with me. I've seen a lot of your faces on my Zoom calls lately, but once I get back from Costa Rica, I'll put some more classes on going into May. If you want to travel, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed. I got a fortune cookie yesterday that said you will travel a lot this year. So I'm banking on that fortune cookie. You know? I'm going for it. Romania for the bird migration through the Danube Delta, Northern Ireland in September, Norway, Northern Lights. That's where I'll go with Marie in September. Andalusia, Spain, we have an opening for two more people on that one. That one's almost full. And then Greece, the coast of Greece, and then Costa Rica next February 2023.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see if that all happens. And then just to show you all what I did over the weekend, this is another thing that I did over the weekend, and I'll post this on a blog so that you can see this one. But this is playing with additive light. It is a red light on one side, a green light on the other side, and a blue light on the other side. And when you mix red light, green light, and blue light, you get white. RGB, that's where that comes from. But wherever the colors overlap in the shadows, that's where you get the different colors. So that's what additive light is. So that's what I played. That's what I beat my head against the wall with over the weekend, along with the flowers. Any questions? Comments?
Oh, sorry. I have
Go,
a question
Carol.
about the night photography
Yes.
class.
Yes.
So what kind of homework is involved in that?
Photographing the full moon, photographing the stars, or trying to photograph the stars where you live, painting with light. Suzanne went out with her husband, and he learned that he can disappear in night photography, and he thought that was totally amazing.
Yeah,
I wanted to talk to me about that one.
that was very good.
So, yeah. So it's just doing that, the kind of basic night photography, photographing the city around you, buildings around you, that type thing.
Okay.
It's a fun class.
Mhm. Provided it's not overcast or rainy for the 5
Correct.
days while you're trying to do your homework.
Yeah, when I was trying to do the stars, that failed.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. But I'd love to have you, because it's good class. And once again, forces you to learn your equipment and forces you to get out and play.
Yeah, well, I have two different cameras, and one of them has a starry night focus. And
Exactly.
so I've tried to do some things at Enchanted Rock and froze to death. So-
Yeah. And your camera, if you have that Olympus, you have one where it kind of rotates just a little bit, right? To help you with long exposures.
Yeah, I
No.
don't know.
Okay, there's one of the Olympus cameras that has this feature, and it actually rotates the sensor slightly to help you take a longer exposure without the stars moving. Okay, any other questions?
Oh, that's it.
I thank you all very much for joining me. You enrich my lives, and I truly mean that. It's nice to be able
That's
to hang
great
out with
class.
nice to be able to hang out with my women. Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
great-
This was
thank you
fun.
so
Yeah.
much.
Kathy,
You are
thank you for the
welcome.
class.
Okay, thank you
You're
all
welcome.
very much. I appreciate
Safe
Bye-bye.
travel in Costa Rica.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. I leave on
And
Wednesday
if
morning.
you see a quetzal, please remember me and send me a photo,
I will send you a photo, because if I see that quetzal, I'm posting that picture. Yes, I am. Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Y'all will see it on Facebook if I see it.
Great.
Okay, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
I'll
Thank
share
you.
the recording with you.
Safe
Okay.
week, everyone.
Okay. Have a good week.